Hi guys, my name's Thomas Busby, and during one of my previous videos I got quite a few questions asking how I achieved such a moody dark blue effect, look to my photos when I was still just doing it to Jpeg. So what I thought I'd do is I'll share how I got that look, that effect, and if you like, near the end of the video you can save it as a preset so you too can use it on your own photos at home. So when I first started playing with the XT4, the raw support wasn't available in Lightroom. It is now, but to show how powerful this effect is, I'm editing once again on a Jpeg. This was taken at 1/25th of the second. It says f1, but I believe this was at about f4. It's a third-party lens, so that information doesn't come through correctly. At ISO 1000. It also wasn't 21mm. Lightroom's not quite reading that information correctly using the adapter that I had, but ISO 1000 is probably the most important part to remember from this. So to start with, we're just going to up the contrast a little bit. We'll say we'll go to about 13, and I'm going to completely knock out my highlights and my whites, and I'm going to bring up my shadows and my blacks. Not full to that 100, but just each quite high. Maybe like around the 80ish, give or take. I'm just going to add a little bit of clarity. I normally, as a general rule, keep clarity under about 30, but in this case, just a smidge. We'll go to 10. I'm going to tone down the vibrance quite a bit to 30, and bump the saturation a smidge. Yeah, it's giving me like a flat-ish kind of look. Tone curve is really powerful, so I use this tone curve quite a lot on all of my photos, the same kind of one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my black point, I'm going to bring that up, and that gives me like a matte black kind of look, but to bring back the contrast, I'm then going to create like an S, a flow. So to do that, I'm going to create 3 other points, right at these intersections just here on the grid in the background. I'm going to drag this one just below that one, the middle one just above it a little bit, and that top one just below again a little bit. Maybe we'll tone that a little bit down, but just to create that little bit of a contrast, but I've still got that matte black kind of look. Under hue, saturation and luminance is where quite a bit of this effect comes into play. However, I'm not going to touch hue in this case at all. Saturation, because there's very little purples and magenta, I'm just going to remove them quite out. And then as a general guide, you kind of want to treat this a little bit like your tone curve, how you want things to have a little bit of a flow to them. So I'm going to bring blues down, and then I'm going to create like a little bit of a wave here through my images, but I'm going to leave red exactly where it is just because the red of the eyes and the antenna of this insect are quite strong, and I really want them to be like that point of contrast. However, that rule is not really going to apply to the luminance section of this edit. I'm going to turn the blues right up, I'm going to tone the greens down a little bit, want them a bit darker. Yellows and oranges will go near max, and red, I'm trying to make it really pop. Maybe about there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to bring quite a lot of tint to that bluey look to this image through the split toning tab. So to do that, I'm going to find a nice, like a light blue for my highlights. We're going to tone that down quite a bit, maybe like about there, looks pretty good. But I'm going to go far heavier in the shadows. Maybe there. So if you're just watching this on a cell phone screen at home, I've gone 21, 12, 230 and 35 just as my split toning look, and you can see that's giving that really dark blue look to my images. Under details, this is something I tweak each image individually, so for now, for the sake of a preset, we're not going to do it. We'll come back to it after we save this as a preset, and you do sharpening individually based on each unique image. Lens correction, I'm just going to hit remove chromatic aberrations because I do this on just about every single image, though it's nearly not that necessary, but in some lenses it definitely has a good effect. Transform, once again, edit by edit, case by case, photo by photo. I don't need to tweak it in this case because I can't see any distortions, etc. to it. But if you're doing a lot of vertical lines, etc., you want to come in and have a play on this. Once again, photo by photo. Under effects, pretty simple. I'm just going to tone down and make a bit of a net around the outside. Maybe not that heavy. We'll go about -28. Just a nice simple darkening around the edges. Now, camera calibration is very powerful and can definitely be used to ruin your images. But in this case, we're going to be careful with it. I'm going to shift my reds a little bit away from the orange, closer to that purple, but not too much, just a little bit to make them really red. Greens, I'm going to turn the saturation down on quite a bit, about, say -45, and I'm going to shift it more towards that darker green kind of colour, just a little bit. We'll go +8. Same with blues, I'm going to shift them more towards that darker blue rather than that cyan, what would you call that? It's nearly green, so we're really shifting closer towards the blue. We'll go +21, but we're going to tone that saturation down a little bit as well. We'll go -29. So just to recap, -14, 0, +8, -45, +21, -29. And that's pretty close to our done effect. So before we go any further, what you want to do is go into Develop, go New Preset, click Check All, and then unclick the following. So you don't want to apply the noise reduction, you don't want any radial or gradual filters, you don't want to apply the sharpening, you don't want any transformations. That's the last one. Then we'll give it a name. I'm going to call it Moody Blue, and then you go Create. So now that we've done that, you can use that preset on pretty much all your photos, but you need to apply your sharpening, your noise reduction, and some individual tweaking on a photo by photo case. So for sharpening on this one, I'm going to zoom quite in. Oh, no, we'll start zoomed out. So I'm going to apply just a little bit of sharpening, and then I'm going to hold the Alt key on Windows and just shift my masking along until we can see there how much noise has been sharpened in the background. That's because this is quite a high ISO. So I'm going to keep shifting that masking up until most of the noise from the photos disappears. But I still want to have detail on the bug, so I'm going to go about 59 in this case. As a general rule for radius, I like to drop that down quite a bit. I'm actually going to go like say -8, just a little bit. Do a little bit more sharpening. And then noise reduction, I'm trying to remove any fuzz, any noise from the background, but still hold as much detail in the bug. So if I go right to that 100, you can see it's real soft and creamy, it looks nice. However, the detail is completely gone from my praying mantis. So we're going to tone that down until we've got creamy background, still a little bit of noise in the bug's eye. I want the detail there, about 35. And that, for me, is my sharpening done. The final stage of this image is to tweak selective parts, the focus of your photo individually. So I've gone into the brush tool, I'm going to go very bright in exposure, I'm going to go a little bit more on the clarity, we'll say about 20, and I'm going to brush this into your subject, which in this case is my insect. And it doesn't matter too much about what those settings are, I want them to be quite heavy so I can see the effect they're applying and I'll tweak it afterwards. So I'm going to zoom in, maybe not that close, go to a 1:1, and we're going to paint this brightness over the bug. So for my brush here, I'm using a 10 size, 26 on the feather, and no flow or density. And I'm just going to make my bug brighter. Being careful not to go over the edges, and if you do, you can just hold the Alt key, which changes it to like the eraser brush. I'm going to tweak that down to there, and I'm just going to remove where I've gone over the edges carefully, because I don't want to brighten up the background. You can use the auto mask tool if you like, which is great for not going over edges. However, sometimes on a really high contrast and textured subject like this bug, I don't like the look, the effect that it gives. And so I'll play with it on and off sometimes, but in this case, I'm just freehanding. Alright, so that'll just about do it, but now I'm going to tweak my effect and tone it down to maybe there. Let's have a look. Pretty good. The image finally needs a little bit of a crop. Maybe about there. So there you can see the before and after of this dark, moody blue effect in Lightroom. And it's really simple to do once you've got that preset, and you just got to apply those little individual sharpening and highlights and shadows and dodging and burning afterwards on an image by image case. As always guys, thank you very much for following along. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. If you could like, share and subscribe, it would mean the world to me. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, also let me know down below. But otherwise, until next time, I'll catch you next time.